Hello history buffs and welcome back to the channel. So you may or may not know that this week saw the release of a new documentary that hopes to shed light on the fate of the princes in the tower. It's been just over a year since the last documentary tried to solve this mystery, and trust me, this one is a lot more credible. I mean, there is a reason why Tracy Borman is the chief curator of historic royal palaces. And as far as I'm aware, or at least at the time of recording before you come at me, no, she is not joint chief curator, as unfortunately Lucy Worsley has stepped down, and to the best of my knowledge, she has not yet been replaced. So most of the documentary is a recap of what we already know, and I don't personally think that the new evidence is enough to warrant a whole documentary on it, especially a 90-minute documentary. But it was a fun and entertaining watch. It just seemed more of an excuse for Tracy Borman and Jason Watkins to be on TV, especially as they have just done a documentary at the Tower of London where actor Jason Watkins thought he was related to Lady Jane Grey through her sister Lady Catherine. I also wouldn't be surprised if they filmed segments for both documentaries at the same time or even in quick succession of each other. So, what is this new evidence? Well, in the will of a lady called Margaret Capel, who died in 1522, and she was married to Sir William Capel, she has written, "Also I bequeath to my son Giles his father's chain, which was the young King Edward V's. Margaret Capel, as it turns out, was the sister-in-law of Sir James Tyrrell, who is the linchpin for Borman's theory. Borman then suggests that the chain of Edward V might have been given to Tyrrell by his men as proof of the murder." Hi everyone, I'm so excited to finally share something that I've been working on for months. My book, King Henry VIII and His 6 Wives. I have poured so much love into this project, working closely with my amazing illustrator to make it as vibrant and engaging as possible. It's full of fun rhymes and colourful pages that bring history to life. Because, let's face it, King Henry VIII and his 6 wives had some seriously dramatic stories. You'll meet 3 Catherines, 2 Annes and 1 Jane, and you'll finally nail that classic rhyme, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. Whether you're a kid or a history buff just like me, or just someone who loves a good story, I think you'll love this book. It's been such a joy to create, and I can't wait for you to read it yourself. You can grab your copy now on Amazon, just click the link below, and if you do, let me know in the comments section below. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks for all your support, and happy reading! Borman relies a lot on the account of Sir Thomas More, of what happened to the boys. We also find out that More's courier was a boy named M. Forrest, who happened to be the son of Miles Forrest, and he just happened to have the same name of Miles Forrest, who More alleges was responsible for murdering the 2 boys. Allegedly, Richard III's loyal servant, Sir James Tyrrell, tasks Miles Forrest and John Dighton to guard the princes, but More says the 2 men killed the boys by smothering them with pillows, and that after the deed was done, they fetched Sir James Tyrrell to see that the job had been done. This may be when Tyrrell took the chain from Edward. Using Sir Thomas More's account of what happened as such a large part of supporting evidence has both its pros and cons. We know that More had access to potential first-hand sources, including sons of Miles Forrest, one of the alleged murderers. More's account provides specific names and details about the supposed murderers, suggesting insider knowledge. Professor Tim Thornton, who features in the documentary, his research indicates More may have had contact with people closely associated with the alleged perpetrators. More was known for his integrity and willingness to stand up for the truth, even at great personal cost. More had access to a wide range of sources and possessed the intellectual capacity to analyse them effectively. On the other hand, More's account contains factual errors. Some aspects of More's narrative seem implausible, like Richard III communicating murder orders by letter. More wrote his account decades after the events, raising questions about the accuracy of his information. There is a lack of hard evidence or confessions to corroborate Moore's version of events. The account relies heavily on hearsay and second-hand information rather than direct evidence. Moore's narrative has some inconsistencies and omissions that challenges its use as precise historical fact. While Moore's account does contain inaccuracies, such as the boys' bodies not being found where he claims they were, a point that the documentary glosses over, and his work has been criticised, these factors suggest that he likely believed in the truthfulness of his work, even if his sources may have been biased or unreliable. Tracy Borman does explore how credible Moore's account is, believing that Moore, a man who died for his faith, is about principle and wouldn't write propaganda for the Tudors. Moore's account also wasn't published during his lifetime. You could argue that the fact that Moore's work wasn't published in his lifetime is significant for several reasons. It suggests that Moore did not write his account of Richard III to gain favour with the Tudor dynasty. This could potentially undermine the argument that Moore's work was Tudor propaganda. When King Richard III was killed at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485, Sir James Tyrrell began working for the new king, King Henry VII. But when relations soured, King Henry VII had Sir James Tyrrell imprisoned in the Tower of London for treason, and Moore claims that Sir James Tyrrell confessed to murdering the princes while imprisoned in 1502. Well, it's more heavily implied. Borman presents us with a document that shows Henry VII's movements throughout 1502, and it shows that both he and his wife and queen, Elizabeth of York, were at the Tower of London from the 27th of April 1502 to the 2nd of May, which is the same time that Tyrrell supposedly confessed the murders. So the three of them were in the same place at the same time, which is also relevant as Henry did not spend much time at the Tower of London during 1502. So Borman suggests he was here because he had been informed about Tyrrell's confession and wanted to see for himself. Documents then show that Elizabeth of York, Henry's wife, and the older sister of the princes in the Tower went to go visit her aunt, to which Borman speculates that Elizabeth went to inform her aunt about the confession and what happened to her brothers Edward and Richard. And to her credit, throughout the documentary, Borman is whipping out sources to try and back up her thought process, and isn't just solely relying on conversations with experts. Although certain information is omitted, she mentions that Edward was intercepted by Richard, who was travelling with his Woodville relatives, but their deaths are not mentioned. This part could have easily been added or swapped out for Edward's time at Ludlow or Shakespeare's interpretation of Richard III. Not to throw too much shade onto Philippa Langley, but Tracy and Jason do explore how difficult and how ludicrous the idea of the boys fleeing the tower is, going over how much security there is and was. Although we know it is not totally impossible to escape the Tower of London, but it is extremely unlikely that anyone got in or out of the tower without knowledge. Having seen both Tracy Borman's Channel 5 documentary, The Princes in the Tower, A Damning Discovery, and Philippa Langley's Channel 4 documentary, The Princes in the Tower, The New Evidence, the two documentaries present contrasting approaches to the historical mystery of the Princes in the Tower. So if we look at how the evidence is presented, Borman reveals new evidence discovered by Professor Tim Thornton and focuses on a will from 1516. Margaret Capel died in 1522. The will was presumably written earlier, in which it mentions a chain belonging to Edward V, and she supports the traditional narrative of the prince's fate. Whereas Langley's documentary presents documents from European archives found by volunteer researchers, suggest the princes may have survived and escaped the tower, and her documentary challenges the conventional view of Richard III's involvement. Their approach and methodology is different too. Borman relies on academic research and established historical methods, collaborates with institutions like the National Archives and historic royal palaces, whereas Langley uses a network of volunteer citizen historians to search archives, employs a more speculative approach to interpreting evidence. Unfortunately for Langley, due to her bias as a Ricardian and using selective evidence, she's always going to be met with skepticism, while Borman's reputation for using academic resources and institutions is going to be a more credible and more believable theory. Borman's documentary reinforces the traditional narrative of the prince's disappearance and suggests a connection to Sir James Tyrrell, supporting Sir Thomas More's account. Whereas Langley's documentary proposes that one or both of the princes may have survived into Tudor times, and it challenges the conventional view of Richard III's guilt. While both documentaries aim to shed new light on the historical mystery, they differ significantly in their methodologies, the nature of the evidence presented, and the conclusion drawn from that evidence. And ultimately, although this documentary is far from perfect and does have a bias, but let's face it, who doesn't? I do believe that Borman's theory is more plausible than what Langley proposes. But that's just my opinion. Like I said, this was just a quick review, my thoughts on the documentary. Sorry I haven't gone into much more detail, but it's all been very rush, trying to get it up on time for you guys. And some of you may know I've been fighting an illness as well, so trying to do all of that and get this done for you has taken a lot out of me. But please, if you're a Ricardian and you disagree with me, or you're not a Ricardian and you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section down below. If you do agree with me, let me know as well. And did you notice anything that they missed out on the documentary, or that you would have liked them to have dived a little bit deeper on? But yeah, that was just a quick one for me, a little bit of a bonus video for you guys today. And make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm now also a published author, so please go buy my book. You can go find the link in the community page. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful day.